Today I'm going to build a few shelves for my daughter's pottery, and the design for the shelving is inspired by the artist Donald Judd, who was a minimalist sculptor, and I made this small model to give an example of what one of his sculptures kind of looks like. You'd have to imagine this bigger, and these cubes made in a different material. They were often made in aluminum and plexiglass. I'll start by making 4 boxes. The top and the bottom of the boxes will be made out of 1/2-inch birch plywood. The tops and the bottoms are all the same measurement, so I've set up a stop block, and that way I only need to measure once. I've got the tops and the bottoms of the box cut, and now I'm ready to move on to the walls, and that's this part right here. And for that I'm using 3/4-inch birch plywood, and these are just some odds and ends that have been hanging around the shop. It's a good way to use them up, and also the 3/4-inch birch plywood will be more stable than using solid wood. I've got all of my parts cut, and now I'm ready to start assembling the boxes. I'm going to attach the front to the sides first, and then I'll attach the bottoms and the tops. I'll use a little wood glue and 1 3/4 nails in the nail gun. And now I can attach the tops and the bottoms. And just make sure you're flush with the front as you work your way around the box. It's always a good idea to use a damp rag to remove any excess glue before it has a chance to set up. I finished making all the boxes, and the next step is to band the edges to hide the end grain of the plywood. I'll band the 2 sides and the front. Now, I'm painting the boxes, so MDF will work fine. But if you wanted to, you could also make these boxes out of cherry, or I think they look good in walnut. Just make them out of walnut plywood, then band the edges with walnut. Or you could even laminate a veneer on the boxes. Even though I know the walls of the box are 2 inches, and I've used 1/2-inch plywood on the top and the bottom, it's still a good idea to take a measurement because sometimes 1/2-inch plywood can be a little bit light. This looks pretty good though, so I'll rip the edge banding at 3 inches. Well, it's a new day. I've got a few coats of paint on all the boxes, and now I'm getting ready to install them. I'll install the shelving by attaching cleats to the wall, and then the shelving will fit over the cleats. Now I made these cleats out of 3/4-inch birch plywood, simply laminating 2 pieces of plywood together. I made them a little bit heavy, and then I trimmed them on the table saw, so it's just a nice snug fit in the back of the box. The way I like to install a shelving system like this is to first install the bottom cleat. Now I've only got a stud in the center here, so I've pre-drilled and countersunk 2 holes in the cleat, and these 2 screws will catch the stud. And at the ends here, I'll put a dab of glue And I'll put a screw into these holes. It's only going to hit sheetrock, but between the glue and the 2 screws in the stud, that should be more than enough to support shelving this small. I've attached the cleat with 1 screw and made sure that the cleat is level, and now I'm ready for the 2nd screw. I'm using 3-inch cabinet screws to attach the cleats. To make the installation a little easier, I've ripped a piece of 1/4-inch plywood to 13 inches, and this way I'll have the same spacing between each shelf. And since the bottom cleat is level, all I need to do is attach the 2nd cleat at the line. I'm attaching the shelving to the cleats with 1.25 inch drywall screws, and I took a minute to spray paint the screws first, and that just looks a little bit nicer.
Hey, where's the little bear?
Well, I had a lot of fun with this project. And if you think you want to make these shelves, I'll put this cut list up on my website. Just search Donald Judd Inspired Shelving System. Now, if you have any questions, I'm going to answer them, and I'm going to start doing a follow-up video, I guess maybe on Wednesdays. Tuesdays or Wednesdays. And so if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments. Please subscribe. Also, I'm going to start doing a lot more with Facebook. So if you've made a project, a lot of people have made the projects that I've made here in the shop. I'm going to start posting them up on my Facebook and some of the paintings that people make in my painting class. Now, as far as inspiration, I like to talk about different artists because I think it's really good to look at a lot of different art and furniture designs, sculptures, because you really never know where your inspiration is going to come from. And when I decided to do a video on this project, I took a look around on the web and I found a pretty cool interview, or piece that 60 Minutes did on Marfa, Texas. Now, Donald Judd had bought an abandoned military base in Marfa, and that's where most of his sculptures are housed today. And it's become kind of a mecca for art and artsy type people. And so on one hand, you have these ranchers that have been around forever, and now you have all these kind of artsy people, and it's created this sort of nice little coexisting community that it actually looks like a fun place to go visit. But if you want to know more about that, I'll put a link to the 60 Minutes piece in the description of this video. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you soon.